IAS Academy.
Hello all, welcome to IAS Academy. So from today we are going to start our editorial analysis for which enhances your mains answer writing, your interview preparation as well, and we can even get a more concise pattern for your prelims. Okay, so we are going to start our editorial analysis from today as a program called Editorial Daily. Okay, so let's start with our today's session. In our today's session, we are going to see the first topic of valuation of unpaid domestic labor and women's economic rights. Women's economic rights. This is what we are going to see today. Okay, so which is linked to your GS paper 2 and the concept of role of women and self social employment. Okay, so let's get started with our today's article. So the first article is the Supreme Court verdict first step but has class blinkers. This is what the first article is. We'll see what is this article and what is the background of it and what is the author mainly telling about. Okay. So let us see the first article for today. So the first article is the Supreme Court verdict first step but has class blinkers. This is what the first article is about. See, what is this article means? This article discusses a recent Supreme Court judgment that has recognized the economic value, which has recognized the economic value for the homemakers. Sorry. Yeah. Economic value for the homemakers. Okay. So this is the homemakers. Generally, we can say it as a domestic unpaid work, right? So it has fixed a notational income of 30,000 per month for a homemaker while calculating the compensation in a case which is a motor accident case. Okay. Now, what the author says, the author and Neetha. Okay. The author, Neetha, appreciates the Supreme Court for the recognition of the economic value for the homemakers, which is an unpaid labor, but argues that the judgment has important limitations, which is especially for a class and gender perspective. Which perspective it is? She said that the author in this article says that it has a gender and class perspective of, it has a limitations especially for the caste and gender, gender and class perspective. Okay, it's not caste, it is class perspective. So what the Supreme Court did is, the Supreme Court has recognized the unpaid households and caregiving works which are performed by the homemakers has the economic value. This is what the Supreme Court has said in this case. So it fixed a notational income of 30,000. How much? 30,000 of the notational income has been sanctioned to the homemakers. Okay. This is seen as a significant step. This is seen as a significant step towards making women invisible labor visible. It makes the invisible labor of the woman to be visible. Okay. So why the author call it as a first step? Why the author called it as a first step is, it acknowledges the homemakers to contribute to family, society, and the economy of the nation. Okay. So it challenges the long-standing tendency. To undervalue the woman's unpaid work. Okay. So it brings up the public attention to the issue of care worker and domestic labor. Okay. So again, the author also mentions that it but has a class blinker. What is this class blinkers then? Why the author had said this means, the judgment mainly focuses on the middle class homemakers, not all the women. Especially it emphasized on the middle class homemakers. Okay. So it overlooks the broader issue. Broader issue which is affecting poor and the working class women. Okay. So it ignores the domestic workers, in the wages issues and all. It overlooks the poor woman reality, and also it does not addresses the woman low labor force participation. Okay, so it fails to question the traditional gender roles in the work and all. Okay, so what is the main argument of the author is, it is recognition alone is not enough. Recognition alone is not enough. Society and the state must reduce and redistribute the unpaid care work. This is what the author is being arguing. Okay, so it improves the woman access to paid employment. It improves the access for the women for paid employment and ensures the fair wages and social protection for the domestic workers, and to create policies that supports the women economic independence. This is what the author is arguing in this article. Okay, so basically let's see about this article and the background, what it has come up and what is it. Okay, and coming to the context of this article, in a recent motor accident compensation case, okay, the Supreme Court recognized the economic value of unpaid domestic work performed by homemakers. Okay, and the court has fixed a minimal notational income of 30,000 per month, as I said before, or 1,000 per day for homemakers. This is what the Supreme Court has given the judgment of. Then, what are the key facts and statistics which we can take from this article is, see, female labor force participation, that is FLPS data. See this, just a second. Yeah, this FLPS data, it says that workforce participation rate of women around age 15 plus remains low for women, especially in the urban areas. In urban areas, it is just 26%. When coming to the rural women, 47% of participation of women is there, and men, it accounts to 73%. This is what the female labor force participation data is saying. Next, see, the unpaid care work and GDP. Basically, if we pay to a unpaid worker, like if we pay to our homemakers, consider our mothers or someone who does who does work and who are not paid. So the unpaid caregiving work performed mostly by the women is estimated to contribute how much to our national GDP? It is 15 to 17%. 15 to 17% is not a small thing. Basically, 15 to 17% is a very high percentage which contributes to the GDP if we pay to our homemakers. Okay, so this contribution is higher than many key industries and remains invisible in national income accounting. Okay, next, what is the significance of this verdict is, first one is recognition of invisible labor. First is recognition of invisible labor. It marks a significant step in recognizing the invisible and unpaid work of the women. And shift in discourse in the sense, if it moves the feminist argument from wages to worth, from recognition to right, wages to worth from recognition to right. Okay, so echoing the what 1970s campaign for wages for housework. Okay, next, economic partnership, like it aligns with the judicial observations that a homemaker is the co-author of the household, in the sense a wife's unemployment cannot be equated with indolence. Okay, now towards economic justice, how means this verdict is a step towards ensuring dignity, respect, and economic justice for women unpaid care work. Okay, this is what the first article is talking about the women, and the amount should be paid to the home workers, that is 30,000, which you have to remember. And how much percentage of GDP is being contributed if we give the homemakers a paid salary is, it is 15 to 17%. Okay, so this is what the article is. Moving on to the next article, and our next article is 75 years of the First Amendment Act 1951, a seismic shift in India's constitutional history, which is related to your GS paper 2 in the context of Indian Constitution, fundamental rights and judicial review. Okay, let's see what is the article is. The article says that, mentioned as 75 years on the First Amendment still casts a long shadow. Okay, by this we can say that why it is in news is June 18th, by just a second. Yeah. By June 18th, it is considered as June 18, 2026 is considered as the 75 years of the first Constitutional Amendment Act 1951. First Constitutional Amendment Act 1951. Okay. So by June 18th, it is the 75th year for this Constitutional Amendment Act. So this article emphasizes on what it impacts on the Indian democracy and constitutional governance. Okay. So let's see what the article is telling about and what the author is talking about. Okay. And let's see the background first. The background, I mean, let's see the context of it first. In the sense, see, I've already told you, June 18, 2026 marks as the 75th year since Rajendra Prasad, President Rajendra Prasad gave his reluctant assent to the First Amendment Act 1951. So the then Prime Minister is Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay. Now, the First Amendment is remembered as the major constitutional turning point in the Indian constitutional history. Why? Because, see, soon after the courts have struck down this several government actions relating to freedom of speech, reservation policies and land reforms, the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru viewed these judicial interventions as obstacles. Okay, to what obstacles? To social and economic reforms. Okay, so what happened? It reset the balance between the fundamental rights, parliament and the judicial review with far-reaching consequences for the Indian democracy. This is the complete context of the article. Now, coming to the background, why was the amendment introduced? Means in early 1951, the Nehru government viewed parts of the newly adopted constitution as stumbling block to its social and economic policies and the progresses. Okay, so several judicial pronouncements struck down the key government measures on fundamental rights, reservations, and the land reforms. So, the government has felt that the judiciary was obstructing its attempts to implement policies at social justice, equality, and economic transformation. Okay, so this led to the discussion to amend the constitution within just 16 months. How many months? Just 16 months for its commencement. That is, constitution came into force on when? 26th January 1950. Before the 16 months, this amendment has to be done. This is what has the background of the article is. Now, coming to the judicial triggers behind this amendment is, basically, the Supreme Court judgment has triggered the amendment by three cases. The first one is the Romesh Tapur. Romesh Tapur versus the state of Madras in 1950. It states the Supreme Court has struck down the restrictions on a journal which upheld the freedom of speech and expression. Okay, and the next one is the Brijbhushan versus the state of Delhi in the year 1950. It stated that the court has reinforced the press freedom. And the third case is State of Madras versus Champakandurai Rajan case 1951. This case has held the discrimination based solely on caste violated fundamental rights. In the sense, the court has struck down the caste based educational reservations in this case. Okay. So, see, the First Amendment was triggered by three major judicial pronouncements, as I said, in early 1951 that ruled against the government. First is the freedom of speech, which is of the, the Romesh Tapur versus the state of Madras case, which is held in 1950. This has struck down the government attempts to conquer publications like censor publications like the Organizer and Crossroads. Okay, next is the freedom from discrimination. Freedom from discrimination is the Champakandurai Rajan case, what I have discussed. Okay, the next is the right to property and equality, which is the Patna High Court declared the Bihar Land Reforms Act unconstitutional. Okay, so This is the judicial triggers behind this amendment. Okay, now let us see the key provisions of the first amendment act. The first one is social upliftment. Social upliftment, it says it allowed the state to make special provisions for the amendment advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes, or for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, even if such provisions violated the right to freedom for discrimination, right to freedom from discrimination. This is what you call the social upliftment. The second is the ninth schedule. Okay, in the ninth schedule, what happened? It introduced the ninth schedule to the constitution laws which placed in the schedule primarily land reform legislation, which made completely immune from judicial review even if they violate the fundamental rights. Okay, next is freedom of speech restrictions. Freedom of speech restrictions, how it added a new grounds on which the state could impose reasonable restrictions on free speech under Article 19 subclause 2. It says the public order, incitement of offences, relations with foreign states, and security interests of the state. This is what it is in freedom of speech restrictions. Then is right to property, because in that time land reforms is one of the biggest issue. Okay, due to this jamindari systems and all, these land reforms are very much highly being in concern. Okay, so it correlated and kneecapped the right to property, which is under the article clause 1 subclause f, and article 31, to facilitate the land reforms and support the government's economic agenda. Okay, and this is what has happened in key provisions of the first amendment. Okay, next, these are the key provisions of that amendment. Next, coming, what is the critical impact and legal, the long shadow. Okay, see, the first amendment impact continues to cast a long shadow on India's constitutional democracy, which balancing the goals of social transformation with the protection of individual liberties remains an ongoing challenge. Okay, the critical impact on this article is the first one, blow to liberalism. Blow to liberalism means it deals a severe blow to the nascent forces of Indian liberalism by prioritizing political power over constitutional order. The next is weaponization of laws. So it created the constitutional plumbing for an armory of repressive and coercive laws, including sedition. Okay, the next is dangerous precedents. Dangerous precedents is it established the pattern of retrospectively amending the constitution to bypass the adverse judicial ruling. Okay, and the fourth critical impact of this article is erosion of constitutional culture. It displays a what you called a cavalier disregard for democratic priorities soon after the adoption of the original constitution, and since it undermining the moral authority of the document. Okay, these are the few critical impacts and legacy that of the article. Next, legacy, and we'll give you a few main conclusions for this. Like, first one is enabler of social transformation. In the sense, see, the first amendment enabled the state to implement social justice, reservations for the backward classes, and land reforms to reduce historical inequalities. Okay, the next one is weakening of liberal constitutionalism. Like, it curated key fundamental rights, especially freedom of speech and right to property, and weakened the judicial review of these. Next, the third one is expansion of state power. And since it gave the state a wider grounds to restrict the liberals, like, and create a protective space. Example, ninth schedule beyond the judicial scrutiny. Okay. Next, the fourth one is enduring the tension. In the sense, the amendment, it institutionalized the tension between social revolution and constitutional limitations. So, a defining feature of the Indian constitutional patriotism. Okay, see, the first amendment 1951 remains a watershed in India's constitutional journey. So it empowered the state to pursue social and economic change, yet at the cost of diluting the fundamental rights and strengthening the executive supremacy over the constitution. Okay, it emphasizes the delicate balance between transforming governance and constitutional morality. Okay, what is the key takeaway from this article is the first constitutional amendment set the pattern of using constitutional amendment to pursue goals and overcome judicial hurdles. So a pattern that continues to shape India democracy to this day. This is what the complete article is about, the article first Constitutional Amendment Act 1951. Okay, I hope everyone liked this video. Take down the notes as possible, because editorial analysis is very much important for your mains answer writing as well as for your interview preparations and all. So whenever we discuss a topic, just take down few points and note it down, so that it'll be easy for your revision later. Okay, then coming to the context, I mean what this this document will be uploaded in the website itself. You can download it from there, and do follow our YouTube channel, and do share, subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily videos of editorial analysis, and do follow our Telegram channel and Instagram channel as well for your UPSC preparation. So yes, this is for today, editorial analysis. I'll see you all tomorrow with another editorial analysis. Thank you.